Guys, welcome into my official college basketball bracketology version. I think we're on 5.0. You know, it's interesting. I always see people come out and it's always like version 1.0, version 2.0. What happens when you get to like version 16.0? Is that even a thing? Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but either way, guys, we're going to go through all the major stuff. I've actually got a new feature here for the overall brackets and how we're going to look at this. But just taking a look at the bracket matrix, which is a composite of all of them, we have both Purdue and Alabama as unanimous number one overall seeds. Houston is basically also there as well. And then you've got a battle for that final one seed between Kansas and Arizona. Kansas is someone that's not loved by the models and by the analytics, but you have Kansas as the number 4 seed. Arizona, Texas, Tennessee. Everyone loves Tennessee in the analytical world. It's crazy. Also, people really like UCLA. They're on the 2 line. Baylor's had a great second half of the year. Xavier, Iowa State, and Virginia. Virginia strikes me as a team that's going to lose early. I just get a vibe. Like, if they're a 3 seed, I could see them losing to a 14. Kansas State, Marquette, Gonzaga, and UConn. UConn seems underseeded. Seems like they should probably be a 3 seed. Gonzaga has the best offense in college basketball right now. They just had like a 98-point game last night. That West Coast Conference is really good. It's underrated. St. Mary's, they just lost. How about St. Mary's lost last night? Loyola Marymount. St. Mary's starts out the game 16-0, and they lose in overtime. But Loyola Marymount is good. They actually are. So is St. Mary's. St. Mary's probably should be a 3 seed, but, you know, they just lost, so they're a 5. TCU, Indiana, they've been playing a lot better. They've been taking advantage of a Big Ten that really is a little bit more average this year, but the Big Ten is going to have a lot of tournament teams. And then Miami, who I would put on major upset alert if they're a 5 seed and they face a 12. But Miami just had that crazy strangulation win over Duke on Monday where they just throttled them. Rutgers probably has the best defense in college basketball. They've got a very inconsistent offense, but they have been very unlucky this season. So they're a 6 seed. They're probably closer to the 4 line. They've had some close losses. Illinois, maybe a little fraudulent. San Diego State should probably be a 4 or a 3 seed. They're just really good. And then they have Duke right on the 6 line there at the end after that bad loss to Miami. Iowa sitting at a 7 seed. They just lost to Purdue. They still have their normal defensive problems. Providence is a 7 seed. Creighton's been phenomenal. The analytics love Creighton. Auburn also sitting as a 7 seed. NC State in the ACC. The ACC is terrible this year, so NC State taking advantage of it. Maryland as an 8 seed. Missouri and Michigan State. And then you've got Florida Atlantic, who recently lost, I believe, to UAB, but I think they're still 23-2, so they're still really good. They're listed as a 9 seed. Arkansas, Virginia Tech, and New Mexico, who also has a very good record. And the Mountain West this year is really good. UCLA, North Carolina, Boise State, and Pittsburgh. Boise State, very solid team. And then looking at the bubble teams, Nevada, Northwestern, who just got a big win against Ohio State, Oklahoma State, Kentucky, Clemson, who's a total fraud, and then Memphis, and then the auto bids. You've got Charleston. They recently lost after being ranked. How about Oral Roberts in their season? I think they're 22-4 now. Virginia Commonwealth and Liberty, who's got a really good record. Southern Miss is like 22-4. Drake's had a great second half of the year. Utah Valley and Akron now listed as the automatic bid in front of Kent State. UC Santa Barbara, Furman, Iona. Iona's been very inconsistent. Princeton, and then Colgate as a 15 seed. I think Colgate will be probably a 13 or a 14 seed, and a team like Princeton would move down. Eastern Washington, Youngstown State, Vermont. And then, of course, our 16 seeds, we've got UNC Asheville, Northwestern State, the Purple Devils, or at least that's their logo, Morehead State, Fairleigh Dickinson, Maryland Eastern Shore, Maryland Eastern Shore is normally one of the worst teams in college basketball, so good for them. And then Southern as well. And then looking at the teams on the outside looking in, we've got Wisconsin, who I think is a fraud. Texas A&M, they're actually pretty good when you look at the analytics. Utah State's had a good year. The Mountain West is really tough. Mississippi State's a fraud. Oregon just got a big win against USC. Seton Hall, Penn State. I've seen some hype surrounding Penn State for sure. Arizona State, Virginia Tech, and then Florida, who just got throttled by Alabama on, I want to say Monday or Tuesday. And then the other auto qualifiers, Dayton, there's Kent State. Yeah, Kent State still with 49 votes to be an auto qualifier. There's some other teams with significant votes as well. Taking a look at the overall T rankings, the goal of the T rankings, especially when it comes to the tournament, you want to find the teams that are top 10 or top 15 in both adjusted offense and defense. Houston is. Houston listed as the number 1 overall team. Tennessee at number 2. Bama's at 3. Alabama's undefeated in the SEC. UCLA coming in at 4. Purdue's at 5. St. Mary's still hanging in there, even after the loss last night. UConn, very solid at number 7. Arizona at 8. How about San Diego State sitting inside the top 10 here? And then 8-loss Creighton is at number 10. You've got Baylor at 11, Kansas. Again, the models really don't like Kansas this year. Iowa State, Texas. Virginia comes in at 15. Marquette, really good on offense, although they've been a little bit down. I remember they had the number 1 overall offense. Now they're down to number 5. West Virginia, Rutgers, amazing defense, bad offense. Kansas State, Gonzaga, the best offense in college basketball. Xavier, that surprises me how low they are at 21. TCU at 22. Oklahoma State, Arkansas, and then how about Indiana and the charge that they've made? A&M at 26, that's really impressive. Auburn at 27. Boise State, very solid team. Memphis is really good. I do think people are starting to underrate the American, because I've seen a lot of analytical models that really like Memphis, that really like Cincinnati. Miami's at 30. Providence at 31. How about Liberty at 32 overall? They're 20-6 in the A-Sun. MSU at 33, Illinois 34, New Mexico, they're 19-5 now. They're only 6-5 in the Mountain West. That's not great. Utah State is 8-4. Cincinnati's at 37 overall, in front of Duke and in front of FAU. You've got Maryland at number 40, NC State all the way down. That's because the ACC is really bad this year. They're down at 41. Utah's at 42, UNC all the way down to 43. Nevada, another very solid team in the Mountain West. There's Ohio State, unfortunately sitting at 11-13. I think the Buckeyes probably have to win the Big Ten tournament and get the auto bid if they want to make the tournament. I don't think there's any way they can be an at-large. I don't know if this is a fact, but I believe if you want to make the NCAA tournament as an at-large, I think you have to have a winning record. That might be a stipulation. But Ohio State is in front of Iowa. They're in front of Missouri. Northwestern at 48. They just beat Ohio State. Oregon at 49. Seton Hall at 50. Michigan's played better recently. They're at 54. Kentucky's at 55. Penn State's at 56. Oklahoma's only 12-12. Oklahoma crushed Alabama. That's funny. Charleston's down at 64. Clemson's all the way down at 68. Wow, Utah Valley. That's not bad for Utah Valley. They're in front of Oral Roberts. Wow, that surprises me. UAB at 72. Wisconsin all the way down at 73. Arizona State all the way down at 76. There's Kent State. You see Drake at 81. Iona. Villanova, very tough year for them. Southern Miss is 22-4. Yeah, they're very good. And then San Francisco, Santa Clara, both West Coast teams. There's Toledo. Toledo, one of the craziest teams. Top 12 offense, one of the worst defenses in college basketball. It's amazing. And then when it comes to the Ken Palm rankings, guys, the factor to look at here is the overall luck rating. So which teams have gotten very lucky this year? Alabama, 32nd overall in luck out of around 360 teams, so they've gotten lucky. Arizona's gotten pretty lucky. Texas has gotten lucky. Kansas has gotten lucky. They're top 25. Baylor has gotten slightly lucky. And then we do have Gonzaga as well as Kansas State. Teams getting unlucky: West Virginia 342, Creighton 351, St. Mary's 284, and how about Tennessee at 250th in terms of luck? The Ken Palm also has Houston as the number 1 overall team by 3 points. That's quite the gap there between number 1 and number 2, and then UCLA, Tennessee, and Purdue kind of all jumbled together with Alabama. And then UConn. Boy, they love UConn. They love St. Mary's. They love Creighton. Marquette at number 11. Kansas once again down further. So guys, when it comes to Kansas in the NCAA tournament, we're seeing some certain trends that suggest that Kansas might be an early out in terms of the tournament based off of these analytics. Now, looking at the overall bracket, this is something new I wanted to show. It just does a good job of I just like the way it's designed, honestly. You can kind of see it. Kind of looks like CBS's design. So you have Purdue taking on Alcorn State or Fairleigh Dickinson, and then they would face either Pittsburgh or Auburn. Boy, I would love that if I was Purdue. I'd want to face Pittsburgh probably. And then Alabama facing Michigan State or West Virginia. I'd probably want to avoid Izzo. Oh man, Oral Roberts versus Miami. You remember Oral Roberts? Yeah, they're good in the tournament. Trust me, they're good. St. Mary's and Liberty. That's a tough matchup for Liberty. Yeah, that's rough. You've got Marquette, the 4 seed, taking on Kent State. It's a fun little matchup there. San Diego State, Wisconsin, that's a mismatch. Wisconsin should not be in the tournament. Rutgers taking on A&M or New Mexico. And then Iowa State and Southern Miss. That's a good draw for Iowa State. I don't see Southern Miss beating them. Kansas will either take on FAU or Arkansas. I'd be pretty happy about that if I was Kansas. And then Texas gets either Iowa or USC. Iowa really just normally in the tournament, they struggle on defense. Virginia and Colgate. I always pick Colgate to upset and win in round 1. I always do it. In New York, they have Arizona traveling to New York. Wow, because they're the number 1 seed facing Rider. They will take on Missouri or Northwestern. That's fine if you're Arizona. And then Houston gets NC State or Maryland. That's fine. We also do have the other matchups in this region. Baylor, the 2 seed, gets either Duke or Nevada. And then UCLA possibly gets Providence or Oklahoma State. I'd probably want to avoid Providence personally if I'm UCLA there. And then the first 4 matchups, Kentucky versus Boise State, New Mexico, A&M, and then the 16 seeds facing off there. The last 4 byes, Arkansas, USC. USC, after their loss last night, this is new and updated now. It still has them in. They've got Nevada and Wisconsin still in the tournament. Last 4 in, you have New Mexico, A&M, Kentucky, and Boise State. First 4 out, Memphis, Oregon, Penn State, and Wake Forest. And then the next 4 out, they've got UNC needing to do work, Mississippi State, Michigan, and Arkansas State. So looking at the overall conferences and the bids, this lines up very nice, doesn't it? The Big Ten, still with 10 total bids. That's pretty remarkable considering it's a pretty average conference. I would honestly push Wisconsin out. I don't think they should be in the tournament right now. The Big Ten should probably have 8 bids. You have the Big 12 with 8 bids, the SEC with 7 bids, the ACC with 6, Big East with 5, Mountain West with 4, Pac-12 with 3, and the West Coast. I really think the West Coast should probably have 3 bids total. It has them at 2 right there. So that's just kind of an update on the bracketology here as we reach kind of the midway point through February. We've got a big Saturday, tons of games. Sunday is very quiet. Normally it is quiet with college basketball, but this Sunday it's even more quiet with the Super Bowl happening. There will be no college basketball games on at like 4 or 5 or anything like that. It's all off by then to make way for the Super Bowl, of course. So guys, that's going to do it for this update.